The next problem is what I call the substance problem. The substance problem. Science never addresses the question of what anything is. What is matter? What is energy? What is mass? What is gravity? What is a force? What is a particle? What is a wave? What is time? What is space? What is distance? What is mind? What is a field? What is a number? What is a charge? What is information? What is heat? What is perception? What is experience? What is consciousness? What is thought? What is an object? What is color? What is life? Science does not answer any of these questions. And there's a reason, because it can't. This is very deeply problematic. You see, the way that science works is that it can't actually answer any question of substance. It can't actually tell you what anything is. All that it can do is it can tell you how a thing behaves. So science can't tell you what my hand is made out of. Science can only tell you how my hand behaves under certain conditions. You might say, well, Leo, science can say that the hand is made out of cells. Okay, but what is a cell? You're just pushing the substance question down one level when you say the hand is made of cells. Okay, it's made of cells, but what is a cell? You push it down one more level and you say, well, it's made of molecules or proteins, let's say. What is a protein? Well, protein's made of molecules, but what is a molecule? Well, push it down one more level, it's made of atoms. Well, what is an atom? Well, push it down one more level, it's made of subatomic particles, protons, neutrons, electrons, so forth. Well, what are those? Well, those are made out of quarks. Push it down one more level. What are those? Well, they're made out of strings. Well, what are strings? Well, what is that? Well, it's just some numbers. But what are numbers? Well, numbers are just numbers. What is a number? What's a number? What's the substance of a number? You see, science is constantly playing this game of avoiding the substance question by always offloading it onto somebody else. It's basically one of these games of telephone tag. You know, like you call some giant bureaucracy and you tell them that, my electricity is, you call your electric company and you tell them like, hey, my electricity is out. I need you to to check what's going on. But, and the guy on the other end says, well, sorry, sir, you called the wrong department. I mean, yes, this is the electric company, but you called the billing department. You got to call the actual engineering department because you don't have a billing problem. You have an engineering problem. So then you say, okay, please transfer me to the engineering department. So they transfer you to the engineering department, and then you talk to them, and they tell you, well, no, you don't have an engineering problem. That is that's an administrative problem. So they transfer you to the administration department. So you talk to them, and then they say, well, you don't really have an administration problem. It's a billing problem. They transfer you to the billing department again, and you're going around in circles. This is what science is. Like if you go into a physics classroom, and I did this when I was young. I had a great physics teacher in high school. I actually really enjoyed physics, but I was really interested in the substance of reality. And I noticed that at one point, that all that we're doing in physics is we're just manipulating variables and equations, but we're not addressing the root of what anything is. So I would ask like, well, okay, so what is this thing called a force in physics? A force is mass times acceleration. But then I would ask, okay, but what is acceleration? I don't understand what acceleration is. And the physicist would, my physics teacher would say, well, acceleration is just velocity divided by time. And then I would say, okay, but what is velocity? Well, velocity is just distance divided by time. Okay, so now you're defining velocity in terms of distance and time, but what is distance? Well, we can't say what distance is. Distance is that which is measured by a ruler. But what is a ruler? And what about time? Well, what is time? Well, time is a thing that's measured by a moving hand on a clock. But that's motion. You're defining times in terms of the motion of the clock. But the whole point of figuring out what time was to define what distance was and what velocity was. So it's all circular definitions. You see? No physicist can tell you what mass is, or what matter is, or what energy is, or what gravity is, or what a force is, or what a particle is, or what time is, or what space is, or what a field is, or what a charge is, or what information is. All they can do is they can define one of those terms in terms of other terms that they themselves don't know. It's completely circular. It's a complete game of avoiding the question. By playing this game, you create a sense that you understand more than you actually do. You see, if physicists were honest, and I came to a physicist and I said, what is a force? If the physicist was honest, he'd say, I have no fucking idea what a force is. But see, a physicist can't say that because it makes him look stupid and not credible. So the physicist has to say, well, it's easy. A force is just mass times acceleration. And acceleration is just velocity over time. And time is just whatever Einstein said it was. And then that's the end of the story. And when you push them further, they say, well, we can't say anymore. That's just the limits of the human mind. The human mind can't know any better. This is the best we can do. Wrong. Wrong. It's not the best we can do. It's possible to directly know what things are without playing this circular game of phone tag. It's possible to actually understand the substance of anything and everything within reality, but not through the methods of physics. And of course, you can see how this is very problematic for physics, because if what I'm saying is true, this makes physics look rather feeble and limited, which of course, no physicist wants to admit. So the physicist has to deny that what I'm saying is true, which they will do with all sorts of excuses and justifications. See? It's gotten so bad that most scientists today, if I bring up this problem of substance to them, they will say, Leo, but this is a philosophical matter. We are just scientists. We're humble people. We're just interested in practical things. We don't care about the actual substance of things. These are questions that are for philosophers to debate in their armchairs. It's as though you're debating, how many angels can fit on the head of a pin. Classic, funny example from medieval philosophy, where philosophers would debate how many angels could fit on the head of a pin. And this was supposed to say that, it's an absurd debate. It's an absurd question to even wonder how many angels can fit on the head of a pin. But this is a straw man. In fact, it is possible to know the substance of a thing, what a thing is, but not through symbolic representation. Because symbolic representation is always copies of copies of copies of copies, which never gets you to the actual thing itself. See, to answer the substance question, you have to get to the territory. And the map will never get you to the territory. But if all you've got are maps and models, and you've completely dismissed the importance of territory, then to you, it's impossible to ever answer a substance question. And you will then convince yourself that that's how it should be, and that substance questions aren't even legitimate questions. They're meaningless. They're completely pointless. They have no significance to science or to mankind. That's what many physicists and scientists today have fooled themselves into believing. But again, that's just a belief. That's just an assumption. That's just a dogma. That is not actually real science.